So this is quite interesting. Um, I was watching a video about social media addiction, and what was interesting about that video was that it was an experiment that they were doing. If it was an experiment, or rather, it was a documentary. What they were showcasing what social media addiction does to young people, and this particular video was done in Japan, and they were just had this group of individual kids who teenagers rather, who were like very addicted to their phones and social media, and they were trying to show what are the negative effects of social media. And that was a scary documentary that I watched, because at the time I think I was quite addicted to my phone. I think that's a story for another time, but I was addicted to my phone, and that was because I no longer felt or was confident in being me as a person. And which was a very interesting trait to actually see that in these kids as well, is that most of them could not hold a conversation with someone face to face. They could not stay a specific period without actually holding their phone or looking what is happening outside. And the long-term effect of that was that a confidence their confidence dipped over time, because now you are busy constantly on social media, constantly seeing how people are living, or how people seem to be living or seem to be successful in certain areas of their lives, and you compare that to you. Whereas historically we know that social media does not paint the right picture for you. Most people pre-plan what they want to post, pre-plan what they want to say. Um, because I make an example, you find somebody giving advice about being in a relationship and breaking up with certain people because of certain behaviors, but they themselves are in a relationship. You find somebody who will say no, um, they don't like certain lifestyle, but they end up behaving or living out that particular lifestyle that they claim not to like. So social media is a very dangerous place to live. So this is just an example, but I'm not going to talk about just social media as a whole or only, but I'm going to speak about, just addiction as a behavioral trait that most people fall into, or what most people are suffering from. Because at the end of the day, there are different forms of addiction. We speak about social media addiction, pornography, sex, alcohol, substance abuse, illegal substances, drugs. Whether you speak about weed, it doesn't matter what form of it doesn't matter what form of addiction is there. But we're just going to speak about that, because I remember there's a statement that said, too much of anything is bad for you. I do agree with that statement. Maybe not 100%, because I do think some of the things do, that you can't have too much of certain things. But if whatever that you do starts hindering your overall well-being as a person, then number one, you're addicted. Number two, that is bad for you. And this is what we're going to be talking about, just understanding addiction, and trying to find freedom around that. Because at the end of the day, one thing we learn is that addiction is a complex condition. It's a brain disease that is manifested by compulsive substance use or behaviors. Sometimes some of the things, it's either because you are intaking something, or you are behaving in a certain way, and which is harmful to you as a person, whether it's in you or the next person. And which at the end of the day, whenever you do something or you take something that is harmful to you or your body, there are unfortunate circumstances, or rather unfortunate consequences around that. um though there are sometimes signs when it comes to you know addiction, but it's very difficult for us to see it at times, because sometimes you will find that you have a friend who's addicted to drugs, but you only see later on when you start seeing that they don't bath, they don't do certain things anymore, There's and sometimes we see the signs late, and that's the sad part about it, because what addiction does, that it isolates people. Unfortunately, you get so isolated when it comes to addiction that like I said, it hinders your confidence in such a way that you think you deserve to be in an island, and there is there's a stats that's very interesting, is that 1 in 7 people, like literally 1 in 7 people, 1 in 7 people are addicted to something. Imagine every seventh person is addicted to something, and out of the people that are addicted, only 10% seek help. That's a sad part about it, because that 10% that seek help is because they've seen that the dangers of that. But that 90% that does not seek help fall into the trap of thinking they're going to be judged, or there's no way that they can find help, or they think they can overcome it without getting that help. And it's crazy, because that's what addiction it does. Remember, guys, that addiction is of the devil. The devil does not want you to succeed as a person. The devil doesn't want you to see you happy, doesn't want to see you fulfill your dreams, your purpose in life, what God has destined for you on this earth. The devil will always fight against that. And if he finds a way to insert himself in your life by crippling your destiny, that's what he would do. And most of the time, what does he do? He goes through the addiction. What we fall into, that's what he will always try to do that. And there are different types, as I kept on saying, there are different types of addictions. We see that there is chemical, which is substance abuse. There is behavioral and screens, which, for example, social media, which is screens. Behavioral, which is masturbation, sex, pornography, screens, and certain behaviors. Then there's gambling, um, that type of addiction. And there's other type of form of addiction that we don't necessarily know of, but other people are addicted to that. But it's quite interesting that, in as much as there's different forms of addiction, the biggest ones are substance abuse, and as well as behavioral and screens addiction. Those are the two major things that you naturally find in other people a lot. And it is our responsibility to try and recognize, the behavioral signs around that. But addiction is painful, guys. I, for one, I remember I used to be addicted to porn, where you find yourself not feeling fulfilled as a person because of this addiction. But the funny thing is that you still gravitate towards it. There are different time. I remember when you go to an AA meeting, they will tell you there are different stages, of overcoming addiction. I just can't remember them. But I feel as though there's a certain stage that we hardly speak about, or which is not spoken about, and it's the stage of desiring the very same thing that you're trying to break away from. For example, when you are an alcoholic, the first step, you start, you say, okay, look, I want to change, and I'm not going to do this anymore. Then you stop, you try to stop. Then you go through the phase of um not missing it, but you go through the phase of being tempted. Then when that phase is gone of temptation, then you go through the phase of um guilt, feeling guilty. You feel condemned, and that's what the devil does. He tries to tempt you, then he will try to condemn you, telling you that, who are you to change? And those are the things that he uses. Those are the tools that he uses to try and get you back into that addiction. um, then there's a certain step that I think is not spoken of, but it's something that happens, is the missing it stage, where the very same thing that you're trying to break away from, you start missing it. It's crazy, because you start missing the idea of drinking. even though you know it's wrong, but you like it's like in your mind and in your body, you start you started craving. It's like you are missing it. You think, I just want to do it one more time. I just want to, watch that video one more time, so that it can just do something in me. And that's where most of us fall back into that addicted life, is because we fall into that missing it stage. And the moment you miss it, then you start feeling condemned. Like, but why am I missing the very same thing that I'm trying to break away from? Then after you feeling condemned, then you go back to it, like, you know what, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna do it. And either way, I've done it, so it's okay. It's fine. And which is sad, because that's the critical point where I think if we go past it, we are going to find a momentum to how we get into a free life. But like I said, there are signs that I think we should look out for as people. And I think one of the signs is the being in isolation. When somebody is being secretive and is isolating themselves, then it's a warning sign that something is wrong, something is happening to this person, because no man is an island. I believe that everyone is designed, people are designed to live with people. When you read the Bible, in Genesis, just after God had created Adam, and God had brought the animals to Adam, and the interesting thing is that after he names all the animals and stuff like that, the Bible says that after he has done that, he saw that there was not one like him. So already, by him realizing that everyone has got a partner apart from myself, they start feeling lonely. That's why I'm saying that I don't think anyone is born to be an island. I'm not saying everyone is born to be married. Well, I think I do believe that, but I'm not saying that everyone should marry. I'm not saying everyone should have friends. But I'm just saying that no one person can live alone. And I don't think we're designed like that, because if we were designed like that, we would be born and you'd be left alone so that you can fend for yourself. At the end of the day, we're not animals, but we're human. So when somebody is isolating themselves, I think it's a big sign that this person is falling into a trap, or they're going back to a certain lifestyle, or they have started a certain lifestyle. And by lifestyle, I mean going into addiction, whether it's drugs or whatever, but they have gone into something. And that's like when somebody is withdrawing from family, they're withdrawing from friends. They no longer are engaged in social activities like they used to. If somebody is always, attending soccer matches, then all of a sudden they stop attending soccer matches. Why? That doesn't make sense. Neglecting responsibilities. When we know what addiction does is that it makes you stop seeing the importance of certain things. It makes you neglect important things in your life, whether it's with family, it's with friends, it's at work, it's at school. You start neglecting this thing, and you see a noticeable decline in that this person has isolated themselves, and they're no longer responsible of what they are doing. Then you know that something is wrong with this person. They are going through something which they themselves don't think they can come out of. Then you will see mood, volatility, volatility. I think that's the right word. Um, Mood swings. Somebody's either always angry now, they're always sad, they are depressed. There's so many signs that you can tell, but I think those three signs are like one of the biggest things, when it comes to telling if somebody is going through a phase of being addicted to something. Yes, look, provided, look, there is cases where somebody has isolated themselves because they want to focus on certain things, but if they do all these three things, then something's wrong. Somebody can just maybe isolate themselves because they want to focus on a certain thing. Or we may think they're isolating themselves, but they're not. But they still go out to activities. They're not moody. They still um, take care of their responsibilities. So you see, it's these are signs. It doesn't mean necessarily mean that if somebody has this particular sign, then they're going through whatever what I'm saying. It's like flu, you know. Just because you're coughing does not necessarily mean that you have caught the flu. You know, something could just be stuck in your throat. You know, um, so yeah, it's a lot of things that you one would go through when they're addicted to something. We look at, like I'm saying, isolation. Financial, there's a bit of financial distress depending on what they're addicted to. So you can never always tell, but depending on what they're addicted to, if somebody is addicted to gambling and substance abuse, at some point financially you will start seeing it, that this person is doing something. Then there's a loss of interest in certain things. You know, what they used to love, they no longer do it, they no longer love it. Then there's a tell sign, you know, neglecting of duties, like I've mentioned, and as well as, you know, being defensive. You know, being defensive and being moody, but being defensive. You know, anyone that is addicted to something, it will always be defensive about it. If you take somebody to an AA meeting because they're addicted to alcohol, you know, they're an alcoholic, they don't want to go there. They will be defensive and say, "But I can stop whenever I want to." No, you can't. The reason why every time you feel like you need a drink is because you're addicted to it. Every time when you're chilling with your friends, you want to drink, you are addicted. I- it's a tell sign of being addicted. Like I said, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a neuroscientist, I'm not a doctor, but I'm just saying these are the things I've seen, I've experienced, and I've watched, and a bit of research has helped me to come up with this. But those are the things that usually happens most of the time. And remember, there's always a cycle as well. You know, the hard thing about addiction is that you'll always be in a cycle. And if you don't ask the grace of God, you know, if you don't ask for God's help, you always seem to find yourself stuck in that repetitive cycle that is destructive, that is not good for you, because this you cannot overcome it by your own strength. It's not by might, it's not by power, but it's by the grace of God. And every day there's parts of our lives that the devil wants to chip out, because the devil does not want you to find your destiny, or to go to your destiny, or to achieve your destiny, what God has called you for. And he will always try to put you in a cycle, you know, so that every time you think you're improving, then you go back. You think you're improving, then you go back. You know, it's like being in a family that always falls into certain things. You know, generational curses. You are always falling into alcohol. Your whole family is like alcoholics. Your whole, or not whole family, but majority of your family is into drugs. Majority of your family is do not get, they don't get married, but they always have kids, and multiple kids. Those are generational curses. Those are patterns that happen in families, and the devil always wants us to keep us in those areas of our lives. So that we need to work hard, and through the grace of God, to fight these things. And I think that's what inspired this video, because I know when I was addicted, and I'm also addicted to something, and I'm trying to move out of it. But it's very tough, because this hinders your mind, it hinders your heart, it hinders your social being, um to a point where you start becoming the person that you're not. And it's quite tough. um One of the things we need to always be careful of is the triggers that happen. Remember, there's some video that I watched again. I think it was research or was a movie. I can't remember. It's speaking about American, you know, United States um soldiers. Yeah, soldiers who were addicted to cocaine or heroin, who were addicted to heroin. They said they found that, I'll check. I'm not 100% sure, but they said they found that A change of environment helps, it helps so much in terms of breaking away from addiction. Because if you don't change your environment, you will always be triggered. If you want to stop drinking, you can't continue to go to parties, continue to go to social gatherings that are filled with people that drink. Or everyone drinks. Now you wanna quit alcohol, but you are always chilling with a group of people that drink, and you're not ready to face that. I'll make an example. When I stopped drinking, I had a group of friends that drank as well. Some of them still do drink. And when I stopped and I decided that I'm gonna stop drinking. That was back in 2014. I remember I decided that I'm gonna stop drinking. I decided that I'm gonna stop drinking on the 1st of January 2014. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna stop drinking, and I stopped for a good 6 years, six, close to 7 years. Let me just say 7 years of my life I stopped drinking. Why? And the reasons why I was able to maintain that period of not drinking. Number one, it was by the grace of God. I won't take credit for that. It was by the grace of God. God did really help me in that regard. Number two is the environment, and I stopped partying. I stopped going out to clubs, going out to social gatherings where there's predominantly drinking. I stopped going out to night. I stopped my nightlife. I changed that, and I filled that with time at church, with time with people who don't drink, and unfortunately, what it did is that it caused me to be just a bit distant to my friends. But I never told them that I'm no longer friends with them because I don't drink and they still drink. I'm still friends with them, very close with them. But they know my stance. Then, when I fell back into alcohol, my environment had changed again. Um, I started drinking again, but only because I was exposing myself to that lifestyle. I was drinking because I was exposing myself to that lifestyle. And the sad part is that I started living a double life where I am sitting to myself and like, don't drink, but I will also drink. And the moment I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I don't enjoy drinking. And that's the funny thing is that I never missed drinking. Even now, I don't miss drinking. I think you just miss. So it's the point I was talking about. You just miss the the feeling of being drunk. The feeling of like your body just becoming calm. That's what you miss. But in hindsight, when you think about it, everything else you didn't want, but you just want that feeling. But that's how you get addicted because now you always want to get to that feeling. So then I decided, what, no, I'm gonna stop again. I remembered why I stopped drinking because I was not enjoying it anymore. It's not fun. Um, I don't particularly like the taste of some of the alcohol. Some of the alcohol drinks I don't like. Some of them I did like. But I was like, you know what, I'm gonna stop drinking. Until today, I haven't drank, and I try by all means to avoid being in environments where I'm gonna find myself drinking. But one of the things that's important is that your environment that you are in will always determine how far you go with your journey of breaking away from addiction. Everything that we do is tough, but with God on your side, you will be able to actually work the journey. It's not a sprint, but it's a marathon. Take some time, pray about it, read the word, speak to people, seek help. It's a scary thing that 1 in 7 people are addicts, but only 10% of the addicts seek help. Everyone else, either they think they can handle it by themselves, or they don't think they have a problem, or they're just being in denial about it. But at the end of the day, through scripture, You know, you take some time and you learn. Eh, You know, when you have Jesus in your life, you tend to transform. You remember Jesus came to transform our lives, you know, move us from one point to another. The reason why Jesus' life was perfect when he lived, it's like he set a standard. But then he says, he wants to become part of you so that he can help you live up to a certain standard. We can never be perfect. We will never be perfect. We will never be Jesus Christ. But we are followers. We should be his disciples. And by being his disciples, we learn his teachings. We learn about him. We learn how he lived so that when we try to live up to that, we go. But then at the end of the day, everything comes by his grace and mercy. For me to stand here and say, I haven't touched a drink in years, it's by his grace and by his mercy. Nothing else. A lot of people in the Bible have, you know, fell, repented, fell, repented. That cycle is what we are going through even here. And one of the things that would be very difficult for me to experience, or rather one of the things that is very difficult for me to experience, is to go back to a life where I don't feel fulfilled, where I don't feel good about myself, because that's what addiction does. It 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 it's like it penetrates your soul, your spirit. It eats out at your confidence, and you stop being the person that you are meant to be. And you know, Dr. Miles Monroe speaks about the richest place in the world is a graveyard because it's full of potential. You know, Dr. Wayne Dyer, speaks about the same thing. That it's so sad when people die with with music in them. And eh, that's what addiction does to us. There's another video that I watched about a rat. I think it was a rat or a hamster. I can't remember. They were giving it cocaine, and you see that rat, changing and becoming something it's not, because that's what addiction does. It alters your behavior, it alters your personality. You become something that you are not, you know, and it is so sad. This video for me, I think it took a different turn to what I wanted it to be. But this video was not really, I just wanted to talk about addiction. What is addiction, how to go about it, these points based on what I read and what I prepared. And my notes, this tablet is off, so I can't really have those notes, or can't really say what I wanted to say. But you know at the end of the day, whether you are going through addiction or you don't know that you're addicted to something, right now you're fighting addiction. All I can say to you, be encouraged. It's possible to break away from addiction. It is possible to break away from addiction. Seek help. Seek God. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Health will be added unto you. Seek help from God. Seek help from your family. Seek help from professionals if you can. If you can't afford to go to a therapist or to go to a hospital, go to free institutions that will help you in that regard. Because the worst thing that we could ever go through as people is being a person that is addicted to any form of addiction, because that hinders our progress in life. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it does do something to you, helps whichever way it can. If you are addicted to something, almost any form of addiction has a helpline. Call it, and be honest with them. There's nothing wrong with seeking help. There is nothing wrong with seeking help. Whether you seek help from your friend, or from your family, or from your church, or professionally, there's nothing wrong with seeking help. Just find someone that you trust, that you know that will walk the journey with you, and you'll be healed. At the end of the day, addiction is a disease, and sickness and disease does not come from God, does not come from Jesus, but from the devil. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope that you find help that you need. I pray that you find the time, or rather, I pray that you find people that will help you. I pray that God may stretch out his hand and touch your heart and walk through with you, or walk with you, the journey of healing. Thank you so much for watching.